Joe Shu's first concert with 100,000 attendees. He sang a love song he wrote for me many years ago and proposed to his new lover. The camera swept over the crowd, pausing on me for just a second. After the show, I was dragged into a car. Joe Shu grabbed my wrist, asking fiercely, "Why did you have to show up? What do you want? What will it take for you to leave me alone?" I thought for a moment. "Give me another 3 million. He gave a scornful laugh, wrote out a check and threw it in my face. I knew it was about the money. Later, he chased me to the hospital. His eyes red as he asked the doctor, "What will it take to cure her?" I sighed beside him. "Joe Shu, you know perfectly well that late-stage cancer can't be cured, no matter how much money you spend." The doctor handed me the diagnosis just as Joe Shu called. I signaled him to wait, then answered. But it wasn't Joe Shu who spoke. It was an unfamiliar, efficient woman's voice. "Miss Tang Rong, Joe Shu is at a critical stage in his career. Your abilities are limited. You can no longer continue as his manager. Ranxing Entertainment will pay you reasonable compensation. After this, please do not have any further contact with him." She went on for a while. When I still didn't respond, her tone finally wavered slightly. "Do you have any other requests? I want to see Joe Shu one more time." Silence fell on the other end. A moment later, I heard a terribly familiar voice, cold and indifferent. "Let her." It was Joe Shu. Before I left the hospital, the doctor repeatedly urged me. "Miss Tang, your cancer cells are showing early signs of spreading. You need to be admitted for chemotherapy as soon as possible." I gave a quiet acknowledgement, folded the diagnosis report and put it in my bag. The arranged meeting place was a penthouse suite in a hotel. Inside, the room was in disarray, filled with an indescribable intimate scent. A strong wave of nausea hit me. I rushed into the bathroom and retched for a long time, until I was almost bringing up bile. Joe Shu stood by the window, his expression cold. "What more do you want? Why did it have to be said face to face?" Luo Qiu sat on the sofa, leaning out. "Sister Tang, greed knows no bounds. As a manager, how much compensation do you really think you deserve?" She was Joe Shu's junior at the same company, with a pretty, delicate face. Looking at her, I felt a momentary daze. Joe Shu had met Luo Qiu not long after signing with Ranxing 2 years ago. The young woman clearly had feelings for him, but back then Joe Shu's heart was full of me. When did things start to change? It seemed to be one winter night a year ago. Joe Shu was at an event about to go on stage, but he hadn't appeared backstage. I went in to find him. In the dressing room, he and Luo Qiu were there together. Luo Qiu had her back to him, enclosed in his arms. Joe Shu was fastening a necklace behind her neck. "What scent is your perfume?" "It's quite nice. Water lily." Once the necklace was fastened, Luo Qiu turned with a smile. "If you like it, senior, I'll give you a bottle another day." As she spoke, her lips brushed lightly against Joe Shu's cheek. They both froze. In the ambiguous atmosphere, Luo Qiu looked up. Her ears and face flushed red. "Tang Rong, sort this out quickly. We have an event tonight." Joe Shu's icy words pulled me back to the present. Struggling to suppress the pain rising in my chest, I smiled. "The price you offered before was for a manager. But you know very well that our relationship was more than that." Joe Shu reacted strongly. He stood up abruptly, his gaze sharp and cold. After a moment, he finally softened his voice and said to Luo Qiu, "Go out first. I'll talk with her." As soon as Luo Qiu left, he walked over and gripped my wrist tightly. "Tang Rong, do you want to ruin me?" Once, when he looked at me, his eyes were always filled with a burning, fiery love. Now there was only bone-deep loathing. It seemed he wished he could kill me. I forced a faint smile. "You didn't tell them we'd registered our marriage, did you?" "No, I didn't." His grip on my wrist tightened, as if trying to make me hurt to death. "Thanks to that marriage certificate. Otherwise you wouldn't have the right to blackmail me like this now. Would you?" I remembered 2 years ago, when he took me to the registry office, he said, "From now on, every penny I earn is our shared marital property." Tang Rong, honestly, I've been waiting for this day since I was 18. Back then, Joe Shu was like an affectionate puppy, even taking me along to every music festival he performed at. But it turns out, one day, that puppy can turn around and bite me. I looked into his eyes and said calmly, "I want 60 million. He hadn't been famous for long. By now, that was roughly how much he'd earned. If he gave it to me, his funds would surely run short. Impossible. He let go of my wrist, staring coldly. If you really want to settle this, give me a reasonable figure and we'll talk. Tang Rong, you're not worth as much as you think. We had been together for 11 whole years, from humble beginnings until now. Now, with one sentence he could define it all. Tang Rong, don't overestimate your worth. Zhou Shu stormed out, slamming the door. I walked to the doorway just in time to see Luo Qiu throw herself into his arms, soothing him gently. She only said a few words, and Zhou Shu's expression immediately softened. He held Luo Qiu close. The moment he looked up, he clearly saw me by the door. But he didn't hesitate. His kiss fell without pause. Luo Qiu cooed softly. Gently, senior. I stood in the room, enveloped by the lingering scent around me. It felt like rising tide waters, bringing a suffocating, deathly sensation. Truthfully, I was alone now. I didn't need that money, but I was hurting too much. Apart from taking the money, I couldn't think of any other way to make him suffer as I did, without bringing trouble on myself. That evening's event was broadcast live. Zhou Shu and Luo Qiu walked the red carpet side by side, smiling as reporters asked, "Now that you're both at the same company, and senior and junior, could there be good news soon?" Luo Qiu smiled shyly without answering. Zhou Shu said calmly, "We'll let things take their natural course. We heard your former manager was dismissed for incompetence and profiteering. Let bygones be bygones. I don't want to dwell on the past." Standing by the window, I turned off the broadcast with trembling hands. The moonlight shone in, pale and cold. That night, I dreamed of the past again. Zhou Shu and I had lived here all along. Whenever he wrote a new song, he'd lean by the window and play it for me. Outside the window behind him, thousands of lights glittered. Those songs that would later be sung by millions had only one listener back then. Me. Zhou Shu said, "Sister, wait until I'm famous. Until my first 100,000-person concert. I'll propose to you in front of the whole world." Later, he indeed became the center of attention. The first person he wanted to discard was me. I woke up, the intense pain in my stomach tormenting me nearly to unconsciousness. The sunlight was scorching, yet it couldn't dispel the chill. The room was empty and silent. All these years, I'd only ever had Zhou Shu by my side. My only friend had gone abroad for postgraduate studies after university, and had eventually settled there. She never really liked Zhou Shu. We had lost touch. I fell from the bed, curling up on the floor beside it, covered in cold sweat from the pain. A sweet, metallic taste rose in my throat, quickly filling my mouth. Zhou Shu's call came right then. "Have you thought it over?" His tone was cold and impatient. Yet he tried to hold back as he urged me. "Lower your price. I'll give it to you quickly. End this sooner. Then you can do whatever you want. What good does dragging this out do for you? Tang Rong, say something." The pain subsided slowly. I sat up, leaning against the bed frame, my breathing uneven. "All right. Half then." As if surprised by my sudden compliance, he paused. "Really?" "Yes. But you have to come home once, bring that first guitar, and sing me a song." I didn't know what I was still clinging to. Perhaps when someone is about to die, they hold on to the parts of life that are hardest to let go. When Zhou Shu returned, I happened to be downstairs. He stepped out of the car, Luo Qiu still with him. I couldn't help but sneer. "So inseparable, are you?" Luo Qiu clung to his arm, smiling with tolerant helplessness. "Sister Tang might be older, so of course she doesn't understand the ways of young people in love. This is just how it is during the honeymoon phase. How could I not understand? Zhou Shu and I had a very, very long honeymoon phase. So long I once thought it would last forever." Before Zhou Shu followed me upstairs, Luo Qiu deliberately held him back, leaving a lipstick mark on the collar of his white shirt. "Come back soon. I'll wait for you downstairs." Luo Qiu looked reluctant, her voice sweet. "We still have to go to Binhai Park to watch the sunset later." With that very voice, she had sung many duets with Zhou Shu. Zhou Shu nodded. Upstairs he entered, sat on the old sofa, and took the guitar off his back. "What do you want to hear?" "The proposal." His movements halted. Frowning, He looked at me as if I was some strange creature. What flashed through his mind in that moment? Maybe it was 18-year-old Zhou Shu and 20-year-old Tang Rong sitting side by side in a corner of the sports field. In the dark, he played the guitar, not missing a single note. After singing, he put the guitar aside, pulled me close, and let me lean on his shoulder. This is the song I'm most satisfied with, for my favorite Rong Rong. But now, after a long pause, he suddenly sneered. Trying to play the emotional card, huh? Tang Rong, I'm telling you. It's impossible. If you want to hear it, I'll play it for you. A perfectly good love song was played by him in a fragmented, broken manner. I couldn't help but sigh. Your singing skills have deteriorated this much. Yet you've gotten more popular. There's simply no justice. Stung, he almost jumped up from the sofa. You dare say that? Back then, I trusted you so much. Handed all my work to you to arrange. And what happened? Your vision and work abilities were terrible. If I hadn't left you, I wouldn't be where I am now. A metallic sweetness rose in my throat. I forced it down and looked at him, nodding. Right. My judgment wasn't good. Enough talk. He put the guitar away and stretched out his hand impatiently. Your phone. Hand it over. What for? I can give you the money, but I have to delete those old photos and chat logs, don't I? He raised an eyebrow. Otherwise, you'll keep them and blackmail me a second time, won't you? I picked up my bag and rummaged for my phone, accidentally pulling out the folded diagnosis report. It fell to the floor. My heart nearly stopped for a beat. But soon I realized my reaction was truly laughable, because Joshu didn't even bother to glance at it. He just took my phone and deleted everything about him, including backups from the cloud. Actually, he knew perfectly well I would never expose any of this, because I was truly terrified of endless arguments and debates. Back when Joshu was just gaining some fame, he had been embroiled in a plagiarism scandal. All his social media accounts were flooded with hateful comments. He couldn't handle it himself, so I dealt with it all. Working late into the night, I opened a private message, and a bloody, gruesome ghost photo popped up, with Joshu's face photoshopped onto it in pieces. Since then, I never commented online anymore. After deleting everything, Joshu stood up. Let's go. Before the Civil Affairs Bureau closes, let's get the divorce certificate. On the way there, I sat in the passenger seat. He and Luo Qiu were in the back. He didn't even avoid her in this matter. He must have already reassured her. The scene was clear in the rearview mirror. Luo Qiu played with his fingers, saying casually, "That guitar is so worn out. Let me get you a new one, okay?" Okay. Joshu agreed without hesitation. Luo Qiu looked up, glanced at me, and said meaningfully, "Some things are old and worn out. They should have been thrown away long ago." The painkillers were too weak. The pain in my stomach grew increasingly intense. Cold sweat beaded on my forehead, and I finally couldn't hold back. Joshu, if your girlfriend says one more word, I'll add another 10 million. Otherwise, forget about this divorce. Luo Qiu finally fell silent. Just before the Civil Affairs Bureau closed, Joshu and I successfully obtained our divorce certificates. He and Luo Qiu went to Binhe Park to watch the sunset. I took a taxi to the hospital. We went our separate ways. On the way, the driver was listening to the radio, which happened to be playing Joshu's song, his debut album, To My Lover. Back then, his voice was still clear, each word and phrase sung with deep emotion. But that lover had been strangled by his own hands last autumn. I still remember last autumn, when Joshu finally shot to fame with an album nominated for the highest award. In response, the company had long arranged a new manager for him. And me, because the area around our home was swarmed with reporters. I hid in a hotel for half a month without stepping out. Late that night, he returned from the celebration banquet, reeking of alcohol and an unfamiliar perfume. It smelled like water lily. I sat on the sofa, watching him quietly. "Joshu, I need to go out." "No." He walked over, stood in front of me, looking down at me. "It seems some of our past dates were dug up. Reporters are looking for evidence everywhere. Don't ruin this for me." A sharp pain pierced my heart. I looked up at him. "So, am I something shameful? For the sake of your smooth career, should I hide in this place for the rest of my life?" A trace of anger flashed in his eyes. What are you making a scene about? Tang Rong, you've changed. I stayed up for days and nights writing songs. Got maliciously edited on variety shows. And you didn't even show a bit of concern. Now that I've won an award, you can't even offer a word of congratulations, is that it? After saying this, perhaps because the alcohol was taking effect, he ignored me, slammed the door, and left. The one who'd changed first accused me of changing. I blinked, thinking I was smiling, but tears streamed from the corners of my eyes. At first, I hadn't checked into the hospital. I just went for regular treatments. With that money, I bought the apartment I had rented for many years. It was an old building with outdated decor. Plus, considering my long tenancy, the landlord offered a very low price, repeatedly confirming, "Miss Tang, are you really buying this place?" I nodded. Soon I would die. If I died in someone else's property, wouldn't that cause them a lot of trouble? 30 million was indeed a huge sum. Buying the apartment used up less than a tenth. I set aside enough for treatment and donated the rest. The third time I fainted at home from vomiting blood. I had no choice but to be admitted to the hospital. "Have your family come take care of you?" But I had no family. I never had a father since birth. My mother raised me alone, but she had a congenital heart condition and passed away before I became an adult. The doctor suggested I hire a caregiver. "Given your condition, you'll have trouble moving soon. You'll need help with certain things." "I'll think about it." The TV in the room was showing an advertisement, the promotion for Zhou Shu's concert. He was going to perform at the city's newly built stadium, the first domestic venue that could hold 100,000 people. The camera zoomed in, revealing a touch of gentleness in his sharp, handsome features. For many years I've been waiting for this day. I hope all my fans who love me can come. Unconsciously, I remembered 5 years ago. Back then, the legendary singer held a concert here. Zhou Shu bought 2 tickets and took me. When the song "She Came to My Concert" played, he suddenly grabbed my hand. "Someday, you'll come to my solo concert too." He spoke solemnly, his eyes shining like stars in the darkness. "Sister, believe in me." I had always believed in him. Otherwise, why would I have listened to him? Quit my job to become his manager without even a fixed salary. At first, he was indeed good to me. The money from his songs, his performance fees, he transferred it all to my card. Young people can't hide things in their hearts. He often posted cryptic, fragmented sentences on various platforms. His few fans tried to decipher them but couldn't. Only he and I knew they were secret declarations meant for Chu. It's just that later, Zhou Shu gradually deleted them all. Back then, Zhou Shu didn't call me by my full name. When he was being sweet, he called me sister or Rong Rong. On special occasions, sometimes he called me senior. Zhou Shu was my junior in high school. He was 2 years and 2 grades below me. We met in summer. He and a few classmates walked by, spinning a basketball, and accidentally knocked over the exam papers I was carrying. It was near the college entrance exams. The school held an arts evening for graduating students. Zhou Shu went on stage with his guitar tall and lean, with sharp, handsome features. He said, "I am going to sing a song by Zhou Shu." Her eyelashes. For senior Tang Rong from class 6, grade 12. "Senior, wait for me 2 years. We'll meet again in university." That day in the hospital room, receiving painkillers and anti-nausea injections, 2 young girls suddenly appeared at the door. They were from the less severe cases upstairs. They huddled together, whispering, "Is it her? She looks quite similar, just a bit thin and older." I called them in. "Is something the matter?" Because I had been vomiting non-stop these days, my voice sounded like a broken bellows. The 2 girls nudged each other in, looking at me eagerly. "Sister, do you know Zhou Shu?" I stiffened. How could I not know? His concert ads have been running for a month. "Then, did you date him?" One of the girls took out her phone, tapped a few times and handed it to me. It was a video. Short, probably taken with a phone. Slightly blurry, but still clear enough. It was at a music festival on a beach. A light rain was falling. Zhou Shu and I walked, one behind the other. I carried his other guitar. Suddenly a gust of wind blew. Zhou Shu stopped, took off his jacket and wrapped it tightly around me. Then he slung the other guitar over his shoulder too. put his arm around me, and we walked on. Watching it, my vision blurred. I had almost forgotten we had such good times. Sister, why are you crying? The girl's clear voice pulled me back from my memories. So is that really you and Joe Shu in the video? Did he abandon you as soon as he got famous and get together with Luo Qiu? I didn't know how to answer. Fortunately, the nurse came for rounds and led them out. I took out my phone and realized the hashtag on Weibo was blowing up. Someone had released this video taken years ago, saying I wasn't just Joe Shu's manager, I had dated him. And after Joe Shu became famous, for the sake of fame and fortune, he abandoned me. Scrolling further, I realized that during these days while I was tormented by illness and barely online, he and Luo Qiu had publicly announced their relationship. As I read, a new topic surged to the top of the hot search. Joe Shu responds. He wrote a short essay of a few hundred words, first admitting the relationship between him and me, then shifted the narrative, saying he hadn't succeeded for a long time, and didn't want to delay my youth any further, so we parted ways. Even though we had been apart for a while, and the feelings had faded even longer, I could still tell this essay wasn't in his voice. Probably arranged by the PR team at his agency. Not long after, he called me, hoping I would cooperate and clarify. Sorry, no time. As I was about to hang up, Joe Shu shouted on the other end. Tang Rong, you took 30 million from me. We parted peacefully. Where was it peaceful? I was just too sick and weak with little time left. I didn't want to be entangled in these trivialities of love and hate while suffering from cancer. Unable to find relief. Wrong, Joe Shu. We divorced, we didn't just break up. Joe Shu hung up first. That night, I started vomiting blood uncontrollably again, even bleeding from my nose. The doctor examined me and said the cancer cells were already spreading. Surgery was necessary, so I didn't look at my phone for several days. When I did, public opinion online had completely turned against me, because Joe Shu had released several photos. They were from a dimly lit KTV private room. I sat among several men, holding a liquor bottle, wearing a humble, ingratiating smile. For these pictures he only captioned, "The clear will be clear." Yet it gave rise to endless malicious speculation about me. People said I was opportunistic and materialistic. Seeing that Joe Shu had little hope of fame, I tried to climb to another, higher branch. The phone fell onto the blanket. I bent over, my heart and stomach clenching with sharp pain, almost suffocating. Before this, I thought after experiencing cancer and chemotherapy, nothing could be more painful. But it turns out there really was. I refused to believe Joe Shu didn't remember. In that photo, I was clearly the one who, back then, to help him secure a singing slot at a major evening gala, drank desperately with a bunch of investors until I had a stomach hemorrhage. They patted my shoulder, praising me as a heroine, and finally agreed to give Joe Shu the opportunity. Even the doctor had said, my stomach cancer was undoubtedly linked to the hard work back then and excessive drinking. I registered a new Weibo account, wanting to post something to clarify things for myself. But my fingers hovered over the screen, frozen for a moment. What could I say? What was there to say? I had changed phones earlier this year. By then, we were already drifting apart. There wasn't much about Joe Shu on it to begin with, let alone after he deleted everything last time. Finally, I just took a photo of the divorce certificate, but I couldn't post it no matter what. The surgical incision was still aching faintly. Painkillers dripped into my veins. Suddenly, I understood. That day we met, Joe Shu must have done something to my phone. That night, my bank card received another anonymous transfer, with 2 lines in the note. Don't pursue this. Don't struggle. It won't do you any good. Clearly from Joe Shu. He really had the methods of a top celebrity now. Vigilant, decisive, ruthless, trying to smooth everything over with money. But I couldn't help remembering years ago, when the plagiarism scandal was escalating. Seeing that Joe Shu was unexpectedly resilient, the other side couldn't hold on and tried to pay him to admit to the crime. Joe Shu just sneered disdainfully and tossed the bank card back. You think money can settle everything? Dream on. He held my hand and turned to leave. Then, in a deserted corner, he hugged me tightly, as if trying to crush me into his body. Sister, he mumbled, Someday I'll stand at the very top. No one will be able to humiliate me again. Now he had truly done it. Because he had become the one using money to humiliate others. I started coughing and retching uncontrollably again. My mouth filled with the mingled bitterness and metallic sweetness. I vomited even more violently. I pressed the call button. The nurse rushed in and went to get the doctor. The young doctor stood by my bed, looking at the blood-stained phone beside my pillow, his eyes full of understanding. Tang Rong, your condition is worsening. If your emotional state is poor, it will only hinder your treatment more. I stared straight at the ceiling and apologized. You haven't done anything wrong. No need to apologize. The doctor prescribed some sedatives. Unfortunately, the nurse examined both my wrists for a long time, but couldn't find a place to insert the needle. Finally, the fall was placed in the bruised forearm. I curled up in the dark hospital room, acutely aware of life slipping away bit by bit. For the next few days I was asleep more often than awake. Whenever I dreamed, it was always of the young Zhou Shu and myself. Occasionally, another person appeared in the dreams. She always watched coldly as Zhou Shu clung to me. And as soon as our dates ended and he left, she would come to advise me immediately. Tang Rong, rein it in. His dreams are too grand. They'll lead you astray. I smiled helplessly. But I love him. You're really a lovesick fool. She ignored me after that, going to the balcony to smoke by herself. In the hazy smoke, her handsome face suddenly blurred. Tang Rong, just keep entangling yourself with Zhou Shu. If he never gets famous, you'll be stuck with him forever. A relationship with a younger man, whoever tries it is doomed. Contact me less. Writing my thesis is annoying enough as it is. Opening my eyes, I thought I was still dreaming. Zhongning stood by my bed, eyes red-rimmed. The moment our gazes met, her lips trembled and tears suddenly fell. I stared at her blankly until her much more mature face gradually blurred. Then realized I was crying too. Why did you come back? You think I wanted to? Her tone was harsh as she crouched down, tucking in my blanket. Her voice suddenly grew hoarse and soft. I fell asleep in the lab a couple of days ago. Don't know why, but I suddenly dreamed of you. Zhongning and I weren't friends at first. In fact, because I took the national scholarship spot from her, she disliked me intensely at the start. She was extremely competitive, wanting to be the best at everything, and looked down on me for not being able to focus fully on studies. Because I was always running to Zhou Shu's gigs and dates. It wasn't until the 800-meter fitness test in our junior year, when I fainted on the track from low blood sugar, that she picked me up and carried me all the way to the campus clinic. So light. Spend less on that little boyfriend of yours and be nicer to yourself. That's how we became friends. I asked Zhongning, you just came back like this? What about your school stuff over there? What about it? I've already got my PhD. Do I really need that extra year or half? She pulled a cigarette case from her pocket, realized this was a hospital room, and irritably stuffed it back. Tang Rong, if I hadn't taken the initiative to come back, were you not going to tell me about your condition at all? I closed my eyes, suppressing the increasingly frequent nausea rising in my throat. Telling you wouldn't have helped. It would only make one more person sad. How wouldn't it help? She gritted her teeth, a vein even faintly pulsing at her temple. At least someone could help you deal with that bastard Zhou Shu. Tang Rong, you didn't listen to me. I told you long ago. He wants to climb up too badly. When necessary, he can sacrifice anyone. I looked into her furious eyes and whispered an apology. I'm sorry. Then, all that fury suddenly turned into tears. She hugged me tightly, her hand feeling the sharp bones of my back, crying heartbrokenly. Tang Rong, do you know you're my only close friend? What will I do when you're gone? I didn't know what else to say, so I just apologized to her again. What did you do wrong? Why should you apologize? Right, I shouldn't be apologizing. The one who should apologize was now high up in a towering building, awaiting a bright, smooth-sailing life. I checked the countdown on my phone. 3 more days until Zhou Shu's concert. The largest-scale concert in the country. Promotional ads were practically covering the entire city. He and Rangsing were both counting on this performance to elevate him to heights others could hardly reach. Maybe seeing Zhongning improved my mood. These past few days I hadn't vomited too badly. As unpalatable as the liquid diet was, I could force down a few more bites. She sat by my bed, telling me about her life abroad over the years. American food is really terrible. They seem not to understand that the highest praise for a dessert is not too sweet. And my classmates there, with their racist attitudes, thinking a Chinese person like me couldn't do anything. In the end, they still couldn't compare to me. Zhongning always seemed aloof in front of others, but only I knew she was actually a chatterbox. After achieving something, she'd repeat every detail over and over, never getting tired of it. I loved listening to her talk about these things, but I probably wouldn't get to hear it many more times. On the day of the concert, I begged the doctor to give me a double dose of painkillers. Then I changed into regular clothes, put on makeup and applied lipstick to my pale lips. Because of chemotherapy, my hair had almost all fallen out. Zhongning went and bought me a wig. Seeing me off at the stadium entrance, she was very worried, repeating her instructions. If you feel unwell, call me immediately. Getting back at him isn't more important than your health. Understand? I nodded. Following the crowd into the stadium, the melodious sound of violins reached my ears first. I took my seat in the front row of the inner section and pulled my mask up a bit higher. The area around me was filled with young, energetic girls, eagerly discussing the concert's setlist. Finally, they tried to include me. Sister, are you a fan too? We heard Joshu is going to propose to Luo Qiyu today. Is it true? My smile was hidden behind the mask. So I've heard. Throughout the entire performance, I watched Joshu quietly from below. He sang many songs, not a single one from his first album. Probably didn't want to recall anything related to me. Except this one. The next song I'm going to sing is called The Proposal, for Luo Qiyu. Thank you for staying by my side faithfully since my humble beginnings, all the way to today, through so many years. The song was completely unchanged, except for the name in the last line. 18-year-old Joshu sat in the darkness. After finishing the song, facing Tangrong's question, he tightly grasped her hand. I don't care. I just believe we'll walk through many years together. When I achieve fame and success, I'll definitely buy the most beautiful wedding dress for you, sister. Amid the cheers of the entire venue, Luo Qi walked onto the stage in a white wedding dress. Her sparkling eyes were filled with tears, but the smile on her lips was happier than anyone's. Camera flashes went off. People around me were taking pictures non-stop. I stood up and walked out. The young girl who had spoken to me earlier asked in surprise. Sister, aren't you staying to listen? There are a few more songs. No. I've heard enough. My favorite songs, I had already heard them all thoroughly that summer when I was 20. Walking to the stadium exit, a sharp pain suddenly surged in my stomach. My vision blurred. I had to bend over, clutching my cramping stomach, and stumbled into the restroom. By the time the pain subsided, the concert had already ended. I walked out from a side door, head down, taking out my phone to call Zhongning, when I was suddenly yanked with great force into a waiting van nearby. Joshu grabbed my wrist, asking fiercely, "What are you doing here?" He must have just come off stage. The glittery makeup at the corners of his eyes wasn't removed yet. I glanced at the empty seat beside him. Where's Luo Qiyu? He didn't answer, just kept questioning. Why did you have to appear again? What else do you want? What will it take for you to leave me alone? So it turned out I was the one not letting him go. I thought for a moment and casually said, "Give me another 3 million. Joshu's eyes held contempt. He wrote out a check and threw it in my face. I knew it was about the money. I put the check away, was pushed out of the van by his manager, and stumbled a couple of steps before steadying myself. Joshu's voice came from behind. Don't make yourself look so pitiful. Coming here to play the victim. Next time I won't give you any more money. 11 years. Up until now, it turned out all that remained between him and me were these kinds of assumptions. By the time Zhongning and I returned to the hospital, it was very late. She helped me remove my makeup and change clothes, then asked, "What do you want to eat tomorrow?" We both knew perfectly well that now, besides specific liquid diets, I couldn't eat anything. But I still humored her. I really want to try those disgustingly sweet American cakes, see how bad they are. That's not hard. I'll go out tomorrow and search the whole city to buy them for you. After a few words, I suddenly took out that check and handed it to her. Ning Ning, a little gift for you. In the dim light of the hospital room, she looked down at Zhou Shu's signature and suddenly froze. He saw you. He told me not to make myself look so pitiful that I wouldn't get any more money next time. Zhong Ning's eyes turned red. I'll kill him. I patted her hand, wanting to say something, but a sudden drowsiness washed over me. Forget it, I'll sleep a little first. We can talk more when I wake up. That sleep was very, very long. Scenes in the dream passed by like scenes from a movie. That year when I was 18, after my mother passed away waiting for a suitable heart donor, I placed her ashes in a suburban cemetery. I stayed home for several days before going back to school. But on the very first day, I ran into Zhou Shu. He knocked the stack of papers I was carrying all over the floor, hurriedly helped me pick them up, but before leaving, he tugged on the hem of my school uniform and softly uttered a few words. Senior, my name is Zhou Shu. That year, when I was 22, I used money from part-time jobs to buy a new guitar bag and rushed to give it to Zhou Shu. He and I sat in the corner on the second floor of a sightseeing bus. Fallen leaves swirled down onto his head. He just shook his head casually and handed me the guitar. Sister, try playing it. Of course I couldn't. I just strummed the strings randomly. But he applauded and cheered enthusiastically. The best sound in the world. That year, when I was 26, after getting our marriage certificate and returning home, I was cooking noodles in the kitchen when Zhou Shu suddenly hugged me from behind. He pressed his face against my shoulder, his voice slightly hoarse. Sister, I'm so hungry. Don't bother me. The noodles will be ready soon. A different kind of hunger. He held my shoulders, turning me to face him. It's our wedding night. Do you understand? That year when I was 28, on the day of the start of autumn, I went to the cemetery to visit my mother. When I returned, I found everything about him in the house had been cleared out. No one answered the phone no matter how many times I called. It wasn't until late at night that Zhou Shu sent 3 words. It's over. This dream was long and detailed, as if I would never wake up. Later, I learned I had been unconscious for 5 whole days. My vital signs were weakening. The hospital had even issued a critical condition notice. When I woke up, the light before my eyes was dazzling. Zhong Ning's voice, filled with rage and hatred, reached my ears. Get out! With difficulty, I turned my head and saw her standing in the doorway of the room, arms spread wide, blocking it. And standing before her was Zhou Shu. Shu's perspective finally stepping down from the perfect performance. Zhou Shu let out a long breath, ready to go to the dressing room to remove his makeup. His manager, Li Fan, suddenly approached, face serious. Tang Rong was sitting in the audience just now. He froze. Li Fan continued. She still hasn't given up. She's taken so much money from you and still wants to cling on and suck your blood. Zhou Shu, if you don't deal with her, no matter how popular you become in the future, you'll always have this lingering worry. Zhou Shu wanted to say Tang Rong wouldn't be like that, but thinking of the 30 million she had just taken from him, he ultimately didn't say it out loud. Too much time had passed. Perhaps she had long since changed. So he followed Li Fan out, not even having time to remove his makeup, and confronted her in the van. The light inside the van was dim. Her expression was somewhat unclear, but her face was pale and she looked much thinner. Zhou Shu felt inexplicably irritated. With 30 million, could life still be like this? He thought maybe Li Fan was right. She saw he was popular now and wanted another piece of the pie. But the feel of her wrist in his hand felt subtly wrong. Their life had always been very tight over the years, so Tang Rong had always been thin. But not this thin, not to this skeletal point. Her wrist so fine it seemed it could snap with a twist. Moreover, the moment he pushed her out of the van, he clearly felt the protruding bones of her shoulder blades. So after leaving the company, he turned back, wanting to ask Li Fan more. And then he overheard her conversation with her assistant. Have you checked? How long can she last? Li Fan's voice was coldly mocking. It's fucking late-stage cancer, and she still won't quiet down. Coming to listen to the concert. Really not afraid of death. How much does she love him? The assistant said. I inquired. At most a few months. Good. Once she gets through that, it'll be fine. Remember, keep it absolutely hidden from Zhou Shu. The company has invested so much in him. It can't go to waste. Joshu stood frozen outside the door, his mind blank, thoughts ceasing for a moment. What were they saying? Who had late-stage cancer and came to the concert? After leaving Rangsing, he went to investigate. Actually, it wasn't that hard to find out. No matter how powerful the agency, they couldn't keep this completely airtight. It was just... He had never considered this possibility. In his heart, Tang Rong was the strongest, the one who would never get hurt. In those years before he became famous, she had worked tirelessly for him, exhausting herself to seek every possible opportunity. Drinking until she had a stomach hemorrhage, yet still calmly arranging. You go see the investors off to their car, then come back by taxi to take me to the hospital. He cried by her hospital bed, and she comforted him. It's okay. Just a minor illness. I'll be better soon. So Joshu always thought that after she left him, she would also be better soon. Over half a month ago, after finishing a variety show recording, he went for a drink with a few guests. The atmosphere was all toasts and cheers. Everyone wearing masks, yet enthusiastic. Afterwards, he somehow told his assistant to drive the car back. Old house, old neighborhood, completely mismatched with his Maserati worth several million. As soon as Joshu got out of the car, a man came over offering a cigarette. Wearing a mask, Joshu waved his hand in refusal. The man didn't recognize him. Thinking he understood, he smiled knowingly and pointed at the car. Not cheap to rent for a day, huh? Going all out. Buddy, getting married next month. For my wife's sake, to look good, I was thinking of renting one too. He patted Josie's shoulder. Women, they might not say it, but they really want to have these things. It was indescribable, that sudden, intense pain that surged in his heart at that moment. He just suddenly missed Tang Rong. Before knocking on the door, Joshu even felt a rare nervousness. He was afraid Tang Rong would mercilessly kick him out. But then he thought, this was the sister who had depended on him for so many years. She wouldn't be like that. She would understand and forgive whatever he did. It had always been like that, but Tang Rong never came to the door. Instead, Grandma Lu from upstairs came down to water her flowers. Seeing him there, she greeted him. Xiao Zhou, haven't seen you in so long. Thought you'd moved away. She was very old, naturally not recognizing him as the currently popular singer. In her eyes, Joshu was still that poor, artsy, Xiao Zhou seeing. Of seeing him waiting there, she kindly reminded him. Xiao Tang hasn't been back for a long time since she bought this place. You better call and ask where she is. She slowly went downstairs. The assistant whispered beside him. Let's go back, Brother Shu. If someone recognizes you at your current status, it won't be good. Miss Tang is financially well off now. She's probably gone traveling somewhere. Who knows when she'd be back? And at this moment he finally understood why the assistant had said that. Because they genuinely hoped Tang Rong would die soon, and he shouldn't see her again to avoid complications. Joshu numbly got into the car and returned to the new residence arranged by the company. A high-rise apartment close to 200 square meters. Up to this point, he thought he was being very calm. To reach the peak, one must inevitably give up some things. Tang Rong was just one of the things he had given up, because he was truly fed up with those days never getting famous, having songs he wrote himself forced into plagiarism scandals, being harassed with private messages from extreme fans year after year, going to events and always waiting for a chance in the corner. He had talent, ability. Why couldn't he be the one to become famous? Joshu walked into the study, opened a cabinet, and found a somewhat faded guitar bag in the corner. The color of the zipper was a bit off because it had broken before, and Tang Rong had helped him replace it. Joshu's heart suddenly crumbled at this moment. He always thought he had done everything well, decisive, calm, leaving no room for doubt. He possessed all the qualities a top singer should have. He deserved to be famous. His separation from Tang Rong was also decisive. He had given her almost all his liquid assets. She was just an ordinary person. Even if her reputation was a bit tarnished with money, she wouldn't live poorly. But it turned out she was dying. She was dying. Joshu suddenly stood up, went downstairs, drove to the hospital. His expression was still relatively calm, because he thought he could still hold on. Until he arrived at the hospital, and Tang Rong happened to be wheeled out of the ICU. And Zhongning was waiting outside, crying until her expression was numb. The reason he recognized Zhongning at a glance was because this woman was truly detestable. At the beginning of his relationship with Tang Rong, Zhongning had spared no effort in advising Tang Rong to rein it in, saying he would change in the future. And back then, 18-year-old Zhou Shu found it absurd. He loved Tang Rong so much. How could there ever be a day he would change? But at this moment, standing in the hospital corridor, meeting Zhongning's gaze full of hatred, he suddenly thought, actually, what she said wasn't wrong at all. Being a popular singer and seeing the growing crowd gathering around, with many recognizing him, the nurse had no choice but to disperse the onlookers and let him in to speak. Zhongning stood protectively before my hospital bed, sneering at him. "What's wrong, superstar Joe? Lowering yourself to personally write another check for your ex-wife?" Zhou Shu ignored her, just staring straight at me, looking at the bruised needle marks on my arms, my gaunt, sunken cheeks, and my bald head from chemotherapy. I was truly an ugly sight. But he seemed utterly unaware. "Sister." After a long pause, he finally spoke, voice trembling. "You're lying to me, aren't you? You're getting back at me, right? You think too highly of yourself, Zhou Shu." I sighed softly. "Why would I use my own body to get back at you?" Just then, the doctor came in for my checkup. Zhou Shu grabbed his sleeve, eyes red-rimmed, asking, "How much money does it take to cure her?" The doctor looked back at him, his gaze sharp behind his glasses. "And you are to the patient?" "I, ex-husband." I spoke calmly. "Dr. Song, how long was I unconscious this time?" He ignored Zhou Shu, withdrew his arm, walked over, and took out a thermometer. 5 days. Your heart stopped suddenly before, so we performed resuscitation and examinations. The cancer cells have currently spread throughout your body. We could only perform another resection surgery. I nodded. "Just tell me directly, how much time do I have left?" "At best, 1 or 2 months." A warm tear fell onto the back of my hand. Looking up, I saw Zhongning crying uncontrollably. I patted her arm. "Don't cry, I'm not dying right now." Dr. Song finished the basic checkup, wrote a few lines on the prescription, and handed it to the nurse beside him. "Continue adding antiemetics and painkillers for her." The nurse nodded softly, saying okay. Throughout the whole process, Zhou Shu just stood there watching. Even though I was the sick one, the one dying, his expression looked exceptionally pained. "What's with this act of affection?" Zhongning asked coldly. "Got a camera on you? Trying to use your ex-wife's last moments to build a persona of devotion?" He just shook his head, walked step by step to my bedside, his voice rasping as if forced from his throat. "Sister, you're not sick. You're lying to me, right?" "Zhou Shu, I really don't have the energy to scold you." I looked at him quietly. "Just get out. I have so little time left. Don't make me unhappy." Then he suddenly knelt down. "I'm sorry, sister," he said, eyes red. "I thought you were just asking for more money to spite me. I thought with all that money you could live well without me. I was wrong. Please don't be like this." I wanted to say something, but as soon as I opened my mouth, only boundless exhaustion rose. Perhaps I had truly reached the end. Even anger and hatred had lost their strength. Zhongning sensed my exhaustion. She kicked Zhou Shu hard a few times. "Get out. Rong needs to rest." I fell asleep again, not waking until the next morning. Having slept for several days straight, my spirit improved slightly. I asked Zhongning to bring my coat and accompany me for a walk. The tip of her nose was red, but she forced a smile. "Okay." While putting on my clothes, I asked her, "Is Zhou Shu still here?" Outside the door. "Ning, don't forget what we planned." Zhongning nodded, helping me out. Zhou Shu followed us silently. Learning from the last incident, he wore loose clothes and a mask and hat to avoid recognition. Zhongning and I first went to the cemetery to visit my mother, then returned to the old apartment I had bought. Walking up the sunlit stairs, we suddenly bumped into the neighbor grandma from upstairs. "Xiao Tang is back," she greeted me, her gaze falling on the person behind me. "Zhao Zhou, haven't seen you for a month. On another business trip?" I turned sharply and saw Joe Shu take a deep breath and nod. Yes. Accompanying Rong back today. Grandma leaned on her cane and slowly went downstairs. Only after she was far away did I speak softly. You came back a month ago? Yes, Joe Shu said in a low voice. That day after recording the show. I don't know why. I wanted to come back and see. But I didn't see you. I nodded. I was already in the hospital by then. Joe Shu's expression looked even more pained. I ignored him and went inside with Zhongning. Look. This is the inheritance I'm leaving you. The apartment wasn't big. It took less than 2 minutes to see everything. But after I die, you probably won't be in the country anymore. You can list it for sale in advance. She cried, shaking her head, then nodding. Sunlight streamed through the glass window, warming my body. I sat down by the table and sighed helplessly. What a pity I have stomach cancer. Can't eat anything. Otherwise, in my last days, I'd definitely eat some good food before going. At least try the most disgusting cake. Zhongning kept crying. Even though we had rarely been in touch in recent years, I could see from her occasional social media posts that she had always been a driven, strong woman. Even the toughest experiments, the most vicious discrimination, only made her work harder, never shedding a tear. These past few days by my side, she seemed to have cried a lifetime's worth of tears. Thinking of this, I felt apologetic again. I'm sorry, Ningning. Why apologize again? Zhongning said through gritted teeth, hatred barely concealed. You're not the one who should apologize. You're even less the one who should die. Joe Shu waited at the door, hearing this clearly. He said hoarsely, Right. I'm the one who should die. I looked up and called him. Joe. Shu. Shu. He hurried over, looking at me carefully. How did you know I was in the hospital? With just one question, the superstar shed tears again. I overheard the company found out long ago. They knew you had cancer, but no one told me. What use would telling you be? I sat quietly, feeling cold again. Luckily, the summer sun was especially warm. Joe Shu, you hated me so much. Thought I took so much money from you through the divorce. Learning I was sick. Shouldn't you feel finally free? He shook his head frantically, crying until he was gasping. It's not like that. Sister, I just didn't think it through clearly then. The one I love most is still you. Don't die. Give me a chance to make it up to you, okay? You're lying again. Joe Shu, you had already thought it through clearly. Between your dazzling career and me, you chose without hesitation. Otherwise, why would you post those photos to smear me? That Mid-Autumn Festival gala, you, a nobody, got a chance to perform on stage. Wasn't it precisely because I drank with those people? And you and Luo Qi, you've only known her for 2 or 3 years. How dare you sing the proposal for her? When you sang about 10 years, 3,600 days of companionship. Didn't you feel even a hint of guilt? Joe Shu's face turned deathly pale. In the end, unable to argue, he could only apologize to me over and over. The following days I was often drowsy, sleeping almost day and night. Besides Zhongning, Joe Shu also cancelled all his engagements to stay at the hospital. He brought the original guitar, carefully asking me, Sister, do you want to hear a song? I glanced at him. Thought Luo Qiu had already replaced this guitar. Joe Shu's face paled. He said with difficulty, I've already broken up with her. Sister, I was wrong. Apologizing only at the brink of death was far too cheap. That afternoon, as I sat in the hospital garden, Joe Shu received a call from Ranxing. The person on the other end was truly furious. Even we could hear his manager's voice. Get back to the company. Now, immediately. Joe Shu was silent for a moment. I have something to do. What? Accompany your dead ex-wife? The other person's tone grew sharper. Do you know she planned this all along? If you don't come back now, your career will be ruined by her. Joe Shu hung up and walked over to me. The dusk light was dim. A breeze blew, ruffling the messy strands of hair on his forehead. His eyes were red, yet he was actually smiling. Sister, how do you want to get back at me? I'll cooperate, okay? At 6 p.m., a preset timed Weibo post was sent from Zhongning's account. It was the recording of our conversation in the old apartment that day. And that was just the beginning. Joshu, we walked together for over 10 years. Those days and nights spent together, every inch of memory intimate with each other's presence. You can't delete it all. Can't erase it completely. I looked up at him, tone calm. Go back. He shook his head, instead kneeling on one knee before me, pulling up my fallen sock. I spoke gently to persuade him. Joshu, your career is over. You'll never be the popular superstar again. Joshu shook his head, just carefully observing my complexion. Sister, do you feel a little better today? Do you want to eat anything? Honestly, I was a bit confused about what he was thinking. The one who abandoned everything for a glorious future was him. Now the one throwing everything aside, staying at the hospital regardless, was also him. Back in the room, I took out my phone. The hot search was already in an uproar. Even with Rank Singh's best PR efforts, they couldn't stop his reputation from collapsing like an avalanche. Because that recording was undeniable evidence. There were even fans who went to the concert that day, releasing photos and videos. In the photos, I sat in the front row of the intersection, looking up at Joshu and Luo Qiu on stage, tears glistening in my eyes. The now former fan angrily declared, "No wonder sister left early that day without listening to the end." Turns out Joshu's path to fame was paved with her blood and tears. I actually once supported someone like this. So disgusting. With a touch of malice, I played the recording in front of Joshu. Our voices echoed in the room. Joshu listened dazedly for a long while, then suddenly spoke with difficulty. So I've done so many things that wronged you. Sister, it shouldn't have been like this. I always wanted to be famous, then take your hand to the highest, brightest place. How did it become like this? By the end, his expression was bewildered and sad. That probably wasn't feigned. But the one who got lost in the world of fame first. What right did he have to apologize? I bent over, starting to cough and retch uncontrollably again, until the blanket and my clothes were speckled with bloodstains. Zhongning had gone to buy me a small cake. In the end, it was Joshu who came over to pat my back, offering the glass of water by the bed for me to drink. I only took one sip before vomiting all over him. Stomach acid mixed with blood streaks, the smell quite foul. Looking up, Joshu's eyes were even redder. According to the plan Zhongning and I had, the evidence kept being released steadily and methodically. The video of Joshu singing at the high school arts festival. A photo of him holding my hands from behind, teaching me to play guitar. Faced with the undeniable reality of 11 years, even the strongest PR firm couldn't turn the tide. Every Weibo post had tens of thousands, even over 100,000 comments. Those beautiful past moments turned into sharp swords, wounding not just me, but also onlookers who sensed the sincerity. One of the most heartbreaking things in the world is witnessing promises shatter and genuine feelings turn to dust. The final Weibo post was a video. The initial footage was shaky, then gradually became clearer. It was Joshu in a graduation gown adjusting the camera, handing over a large bouquet of sunflowers. His originally sharp features were softened by a smile. "Happy graduation, sister." Then came my slightly helpless face. "You're only a sophomore. Why are you wearing a graduation gown?" "Doesn't matter. I'll wear it with you today. In 2 years, you'll wear it with me too." He leaned in, kissed my cheek with a smile, sat on the grass nearby with his guitar. He said, Wrong. Pick a song." I was in a rare playful mood. Breaking up is happy. The still young Joshu's expression instantly turned tense and serious. He shook his head firmly. "We won't break up. Never. Breaking up with you. Unless I die." Then he started singing those sweet love songs he wrote for me. But the one who wanted to break up was him. The one dying was me. How unfair heaven is. For so many years, I firmly believed that when Joshu became famous, I would be by his side. Now he climbed high alone. That's fine too. Then let my death pull him down. "Let's go to the abyss together, Joshu." When Zhongning returned with the small cake, the blood I vomited had already stained large patches of Joshu's white t-shirt. Her face instantly turned deathly pale. She rushed over, about to call the doctor. I shook my head, pressing her hand. "I want to try the cake." The cream slid down my throat. I smiled. "It's not as bad as you said. Seems you're the picky one." Then I vomited it all out. Zhongning cried until she was gasping for breath. She hadn't even cried like this back when I took her national scholarship spot. I felt a bit guilty and sighed. I should have made you go even farther to buy something. Then you wouldn't have to experience this parting. I had experienced this once before. I knew the taste. Zhongning held my gradually cooling hand, shaking her head. If you didn't even let me be with you when you die, then even if we meet in the underworld 100 years from now, I won't acknowledge you. I smiled with closed eyes, my voice hoarse and ugly. You've gotten a PhD in physics, yet you still believe in that. I forgot to tell you, Zhongning. Actually, I took the IELTS. Originally planning to go abroad to find you after ending things with Zhou Shu. If not for this illness, we should be sitting side by side on the other side of the globe. Now maybe in a riverside cafe, or maybe in that endless wheat field you once told me about. But like this, forget it. Forget it. I won't say it. Opening my eyes, Zhou Shu's face was still before me, a bit unclear. He suddenly seemed to calm down, even asking softly, "Do you want to hear one more song? Sister, shall I sing the proposal for you?" "Don't sing," I said hoarsely. "Zhou Shu, your singing is truly awful now." "I'm sorry. Besides, the best version, I already heard it that summer when I was 20. Summers weren't so hot back then." The night breeze carried the sound of cicadas and crickets. Under the streetlight, swaying shadows of people gradually walked away. 18-year-old Zhou Shu leaned close, our heads touching. "Sister, let's not go back tonight, okay?" "What for?" His slender, beautiful fingers plucked a guitar string. "Right here. Singing songs for you all night." I said okay. "You keep singing and I'll keep listening." Later, encountering many things, I always said this. Even if the whole world stops listening, it doesn't matter. I will always, always be your only listener. Who broke the promise first? Who walked away first? The scene before my eyes grew increasingly blurred until I couldn't see anything. I slowly closed my eyes, feeling something warm drip onto my face. Zhou Shu's voice seemed to come from very far away. Hazy as mist, yet calm as still water. He said, "Sister, wait a little. I'll come right away." I didn't quite understand, but never mind. I was about to die. Really didn't want to guess his thoughts anymore. Cicadas chirped outside the window. I died in the summer I turned 29. The end. Zhongning. Side story. While sorting through Tang Rong's belongings in that old apartment, Zhongning found some IELTS study materials on the bookshelf. Opening them, she saw many annotations in the notebooks and vocabulary books. Tang Rong had always been quiet and gentle, but her handwriting carried a certain sharp elegance. Zhongning pulled out a cigarette, lit it, and clenched it between her teeth. Searching further, she found a passport and visa. The date was 6 months ago. If she calculated the time, it seemed to be right before Tang Rong was diagnosed with cancer. Tears welled up instantly as if a dam had burst. The hand holding the passport began to tremble uncontrollably. She stubbered out the cigarette and walked out the door. Unsurprisingly, Zhou Shu was standing outside. Seeing her, his haggard face showed a desperate plea. "Let me in. Just to look inside once, please. Or name a price. I'll buy this apartment, okay?" Zhongning didn't say a word. Cigarette clenched between her teeth. She grabbed Zhou Shu by the collar and punched him in the nose. Zhou Shu staggered back 2 steps but didn't fight back. Then Zhongning threw another punch. She had wanted to do this for a long time. During her years abroad, she never made any friends. She knew her personality wasn't likable. When the psychological pressure got too much, she would go to the school gym to box, working up a sweat, emptying her mind completely, easing that unbearable tension stretched to its limit. Because she was so competitive and had a sharp tongue, she hadn't made any truly close friends all these years. Tang Rong was the only one. She was like a reed in the wind, silent, soft yet resilient beyond imagination. At first, Zhongning somewhat looked down on her for always focusing on a boy 2 years younger. That was until Tang Rong took the national scholarship spot from her for 2 consecutive years. Zhongning was furious. Returning to the dorm, she deliberately slammed the door loudly, then looked provocatively at Tang Rong. She was waiting for Tang Rong to get angry, stand up and argue with her, or even fight. She was confident her fighting skills far surpassed this petite, delicate girl. But Tang Rong stood up, only looking at her with a gentle smile. Want to go eat at the cafeteria together? Zhong Ning was dumbfounded. Cafeteria 3 made your favorite sizzling beef today. It'll be gone if we're late. That soft, warm hand just took hers. Zhong Ning secretly blushed at the tips of her ears when no one could see. There were many things she wanted to say, like how did you know I like sizzling beef? Or how do you know today's menu at Cafeteria 3? But in the end, all she managed was a weak threat. Don't think this is over. What was this? She had been outmatched. What this could there be? Zhong Ning kept this in mind, until that time Tang Rong fainted during the fitness test on the track. She finally found a chance to repay her, picking her up and carrying her to the hospital. So light. Spend less on that little boyfriend of yours. Be nicer to yourself. She stood by the hospital bed, hands on hips, speaking gruffly. And Tang Rong just smiled and nodded. Zhong Ning knew she wouldn't listen. This woman was like that, gentle and harmless on the surface, but more stubborn than anyone deep down. After Zhong Ning went abroad, Tang Rong still kept following Zhou Shu around. Given her parents' past experiences, Zhong Ning simply didn't believe there existed lovers who could share joy after hardship. But no matter how she advised, Tang Rong would just comfort her, and then turn around to seek opportunities for Zhou Shu. Zhong Ning was almost driven crazy by a nameless irritation. Later, she simply issued an ultimatum. Contact me less. Until that day in the lab, having stayed up several nights, Zhong Ning fell asleep slumped over the desk. She dreamed of Tang Rong. In the dream, Tang Rong looked skeletal, but her face wore the same smile as before. Ning Ning, you need to rein in that temper, or you won't make friends. None of your business. Zhong Ning glared at her fiercely. How dare you say that to me? All these years, has Zhou Shu made it big? Has he given you a good life? Tang Rong was still smiling, but the emotion in her eyes suddenly turned immensely sad. Yes, you're right. I was wrong. Then Zhong Ning woke up. She grew more and more uneasy, took out her phone, and searched for news about Zhou Shu back home. And despite such slander, Tang Rong hadn't even spoken up, hadn't even replied to her messages. Zhong Ning felt something was deeply wrong. She took leave, bought a ticket back to China, and asked someone to find out Tang Rong's whereabouts. Stomach cancer. Late stage. Her psychological defenses collapsed in an instant. What are you doing, young lady? If you keep hitting, you'll kill him. In the chaos, a frightened voice rang out. Then she was forcefully pulled back by several people. Something sharp was ringing in her ears. It took Zhong Ning a moment to realize. Zhou Shu was curled on the ground, already beaten black and blue by her. Blood stained the corners of his eyes and forehead, a split at the corner of his mouth, almost disfigured. Zhong Ning spat in his face, sneering coldly. Go ahead, call the police. Go on. Have the guts to sue me. Zhou Shu looked at her, lips moving as if saying something. Zhong Ning didn't hear clearly and took a few steps forward. Barking like a dog? Speak up. I won't sue you. Rong would be unhappy. You fucking dare mention her? Son of a bitch. What right do you have to mention her? Zhong Ning exploded with rage instantly. She kicked Zhou Shu in the shin, and was about to hit him again when the people around her pulled her back. By then, someone finally recognized Zhou Shu. Isn't that the big star? What star? Doesn't do human things. Got his own wife killed. No wonder he got beaten. Brought it on himself. Zhou Shu trembled, slowly got up, and looked desperately at the door behind Zhong Ning. After a long pause, he finally walked away. Zhong Ning went back inside, closed the door, and slumped down on the floor by the entryway, watching her tears soak dark spots into the carpet. That night, Zhou Shu held a press conference alone. Before the cameras and microphones, he admitted everything, how Tang Rong had accompanied him for many years, the origin of those photos back then, and how Tang Rong's illness was related to him. In the end, even the reporters in the front row couldn't stand it anymore, indignantly calling him scum. Zhou Shu smiled at the cameras. Yes, I'm scum. Then that same night, news came that he had committed suicide. As if afraid he wouldn't die. He took 2 bottles of sleeping pills and then slit his wrists in a bathtub filled with hot water. Hearing the news, Zhongning said nothing. She just stood on the balcony, lit a cigarette, watched the white smoke rise between her fingers and gradually dissipate. After a long while, she suddenly gave a cold laugh. Good that he's dead. Her voice was hoarse, as if talking to herself. If he didn't die, who knows? Maybe before I go abroad, I'd have stabbed him with a knife too. Wrong. Walk a little faster, even faster. The road to the underworld is long. Don't meet someone you don't like anymore. That night, Zhongning finished an entire pack of cigarettes on the balcony. Then she received a call from her PhD, alma mater. Yes, the offer for a teaching position. I'm sorry, I can't accept it for now. After returning to China this time, I plan to stay here for a while. Zhongning looked up at the moon in the sky. Compared to the one she and Tang Rong had looked at together on their university dorm balcony many years ago, it seemed unchanged. Because there's a very important person in China. I want to be with her.